And we're live. Hi, everyone, and welcome to ODevs Remote. My name is Janelle, and I'm joined by an awesome human being named Roy, who is going to tell you some really awesome stuff about freelancing and writing great proposals so that you can make more money. So this is really exciting. So he's going to talk for about 20 minutes, and if you have any questions or anything like that, definitely feel free to ask him in the chat. We'll be monitoring that. But yeah, without further ado, I'll let Roy introduce himself and give it a go.
Hey everyone, I'm Roy Jossfolk. I'm a web developer slash designer and digital marketer. So I kind of do a lot of different things, and I've been freelancing and consulting now for over 10 years. I'm new to Orlando, fairly new, just the past 4 years, but previously I was down in South Florida and I've worked on, tons and tons of projects. A lot of you might know me out there from going to the meetups and just in general being on Slack or whatnot. But today specifically, I'm going to get into writing the perfect proposal. So this is a part of freelancing that is inevitable. At some point, you're going to have to put together a proposal for your project. And you're going to need to go to your client and show them what's going to be done, how much it's going to cost, and how long that's going to take. And a lot of freelancers, especially newer ones, they're nervous about this because at this point, they're trying to figure out, is this person going to pay for it? So we're going to kind of go step by step. We only have 20 minutes, so I'm going to go through the most important parts. And then, of course, there'll be some Q&A after, and you can reach out to me anytime. So initially, I just want to kind of lay some groundwork on what exactly is a proposal, because a lot of people confuse the proposal. It's a summary of the conceptual agreement you've reached with an economic buyer. So that's the client, the someone who can write a check, and not a negotiation document or attempt to make a sale. So when you're putting in this proposal, it shouldn't be the first time that you're talking about or showing off the goals or requirements and kind of getting an idea of what the client can pay. At this point, when you're at the proposal stage, you're pretty much ready to go. The client's sold. Now you just need to present them with the details. So if you want to negotiate with that guy, you can go ahead. So people also get confused on who they should be presenting the proposals to. So this talk specifically isn't like, oh, you met somebody online, they need a project, and now all of a sudden they're just like, yeah, send me a proposal. This isn't really going to work in that instance. It requires that you should be presenting your proposal to a champion client. So those of you that have heard me speak before on various podcasts and meetups, which I can provide some links to those, I talk about champion clients. And these are people, someone that you built a trusting relationship with, either organically or by referral. Referral is always better. So it's a customer with buying power who has realistic expectations, looks to you as the expert, and is most concerned with the value and impact over the cost. So that's very important. If you're not dealing with that person, more than likely this proposal is not going to work for you. A lot of the failures that you'll have with this proposal would be based on the relationship that you have with that client. So that's very important to understand. I don't want you to think you could just kind of throw this up against the wall and it will stick. So there's some groundwork, but I'm not going to get into that because we only have 20 minutes. So some keys to a high ticket proposal. One is the discovery. So it's not just the technical aspect of figuring out what they need. So if it's a website, it's an app, it's a digital marketing campaign, it's really to establish the outcome-based objectives, the metrics for success, and the value and impact that they're looking to receive for the work that you put together. And we're going to be able to use that later in our proposal process to kind of construct our proposal. So the key to this is asking the right questions. And I'm going to go over a list of questions that, you don't have to use them word for word, but they give you an idea of the things that you can ask your client to try to figure out essentially where their value lies. And, like I said, it's not just the technical requirements, but also the business objectives. So some people, they might think, oh man, now I have to know something about business. Well, it's not really about that. We're just trying to figure out what would be the result of you completing this work. The next thing is a trusting relationship, which I kind of talked about before with the champion clients. And you may say, well, how does that happen? It's not like it takes many months or anything like that, but it's more about giving constant value from the beginning of the relationship. So an example of this is you meet someone at an event via referral. Someone introduces you to someone. They say that you're a app developer. They just happen to be someone who has an app or needs an app or in that realm. And you essentially just in casual conversation give them, really good advice and really good pointers to think about and stuff that, maybe some people would charge for. I did this recently, and I had someone come up to me after I was giving away some golden nuggets of digital marketing to a dentist. And one of my friends came up to me and says, man, you should have charged for that consultation. I say, nope, you got to give away gold to sell diamonds. So that's my formula. So if you really want to get the highest ticket proposal, you have to be prepared to kind of spill your beans about, anything that you can give them of value towards their project, so that they can say, wow, this person is really knowledgeable. And that, just imagine if I paid them. So what are some discovery questions? So things like, what is the ideal outcome you'd like to experience? What results are you trying to accomplish? What better product, service, or customer or employee condition are you seeking? So it could be internal software, it could be external software, it could be a website. They could be looking to increase profits. So as you can see, there's several other questions that you can look to try to understand. And you want to look for a number, a percentage. Well, if we perform this UX work on this website, if we increase our user experience to be better, we're expecting to increase our profits by 20%. Oh, great. Well, what type of sales are you guys doing currently? Where are you guys at? What's the baseline there? And now all of a sudden you have an idea of what is this actually even worth to them. If 10% additional in revenue is hundreds of thousands of dollars, then, well, to make hundreds of thousands of dollars, you might have to spend tens of thousands of dollars. And that'd be a great investment. That'd be something that, yeah, of course, if I could spend $10,000, $20,000 to make $100,000 or $200,000 because I have confidence in what I have and I have confidence you to complete the work, then that makes a lot of sense. So it's like example, how much would you gain on the completion as a result? What would be the result of completing this in your mind? So we're getting into the anatomy of a high ticket proposal. Hold on one second. Okay. So now once you've kind of gotten to this point where you found the champion client, so this is someone that looks to you as an expert in all those other things. You figured out what the business objectives are, and obviously the technical needs. Okay, so now we're at a point finally where you can write a proposal. Never write a proposal before this point. There's no way that you can give them an estimate on this project before you've reached this point. Okay, so it may seem like that takes a long time, but really in 2, 3, or 4 conversations, maybe meeting up with them a few times, you can really get all this information from them. Especially if you're meeting them in person for the first time or you're being referred by someone, it's a lot easier than just, I guess, cold calling or just, randomly getting a lead. So we have our goals, we have our project details, we have our joint accountabilities, and then we have the list of services, pricing, and timeline. And that's not a mistake. All those will go on one page, and I'll show you what I mean. So a big thing about my proposal is a lot of times people will give a proposal that is the typical, 8.5 by 11 PDF, and it's just paragraphs of information. What I like to do is slides, something similar to what I'm showing you right now. So it limits the information that I can put there to only the most important stuff, using bullet points and short sentences so that the client can absorb all of that. So I use Google Slides to create my proposals and not Word documents. So the goals, I want to get into these goals. These are just to establish a base understanding for how you both arrived at this point. What is it that they're trying to get out of the development or design or the marketing that you're about to do for them? These goals are the value and the impact this project will have, in which both of you and the client would agree to. So if you went through these goals, and talk to the client about it, you guys would say, we're on the same page. We both want the same things. This is exactly what I'm looking to do. So some examples, and these are random examples that aren't too specific, that are various types of projects, but say you have an e-commerce website and they want to increase their sales. So you can look at optimizing the checkout process, increasing the payment options, and implementing an abandoned cart campaign. Those things right there are going to bring immediate impact for sure if they already haven't done those things. So maybe they just started a few years ago and now the company's rolling and they need to get more advanced. Well, great. We can provide that. Something for design is like modernizing the website's design to enhance the brand's credibility and improve site visitor user experience. So if the client expresses to you that they want to look more like the power players of the industry, they need to look more like the biggest companies, well, that's going to increase their credibility. They hold that in high value. So you want to make sure that that goal is actually written out in your proposal. Okay. Another thing could be debug and improve an MVP web application in order to make the business more desirable to investors. So you have someone who's just starting out, or they have an MVP product, they're looking for investment. Maybe they're raising hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. So that's of high value to them. And you want to make sure that they have something that won't fail on them when they're showing it off to people. And also it looks good and all those different things. So you can find out pretty easily from those questions if that is something that they're interested in doing. So the project details are as what you would expect. This is where you would break down stuff like the technologies, the features, additional tools you may need to accomplish. So maybe there's some third-party software that you need to have in order to work on this. And really, it's a breakdown of all the goals one by one. So if you have 5 goals, then you should have at least 5 additional slides. Sometimes project details can take up more than 1 slide, but you should at least have 5 additional slides which go over how will you actually accomplish this goal. So that's pretty important because now that you've agreed to the goals and you and the client are on the same page, we want to make sure that they understand in writing in plain English, how are you actually going to get this done? And when they look at that and they say, wow, this is realistic, I know that they can do it. Well, okay, then we're moving forward. Some examples, going back to the previous examples of the goals, evaluate the current checkout process using analytics to determine where and why customers abandon their cart. So we want to do a deep dive and then obviously more details into what we will use. So implement additional payment options, Apple Pay, PayPal, cryptocurrency, because we want to make sure that whatever the customer wants to check out with, they have available to them. And then down to third-party stuff like utilize Metoric software, which is a transactional email software for abandoned cart campaign. And that includes configuration and template design. So these are just some base details. You can go even deeper. Whatever it takes to kind of set the, you don't want any scope creep or anything like that. So you definitely want to set the base for what actually is going to be done and what tools will you use to complete it. Joint accountabilities. This is extremely important because success relies on not only you doing your job to the best of your abilities, but also the client being available, making sure that you have all the things that you need, such as admin access to whatever website or apps that you're working on. Define when you'll get feedback. How quickly are you expecting someone to get back to you? How quickly will you get back to them? What happens if they reach out to you Friday at the end of the day? So all those different types of things. Stand-up meeting Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, so that they know every week we'll have a stand-up meeting. So also purchasing plugin software, all those different types of things will come into this joint accountability. So that way the client knows that it's not just all on you. I need to have all these different things in order for us to meet our goals. So now we're getting into the list of services, pricing, and timeline. And the list of services is not to be confused with the goals. They're slightly similar, but now we're actually saying what is it ultimately that we're going to do? A little bit broader than the specific details of a particular piece of the project, but this is overall, what are we going to do? And the longer that this list is, the better off you are. It's definitely equal to higher fees. And that's just because purely, if I look at a list of, say I go to a mechanic, or I go to a doctor or anyone, and the list of things that needs to be done is very long, my immediate expectation is that this is pretty expensive. And we do want to kind of come across in that way. We do want to come across that this is, what we do is not, shouldn't be taken for granted. And it doesn't come at a low cost, because you have to be highly skilled to accomplish some of these goals. And we want to make sure we have a long list of things, because we'll get into it. But if there is a situation of negotiation, which I'm going to go over in a little bit, you could just remove things from this list. You don't have to give them the same exact thing for the same list of, then you don't have to give them a cheaper price for the same list of items. Pricing, this is important, I'm gonna go over it again, should only be presented at this time. So the only time that they truly get the final cost of this project should be after you've already gone through the goals, you've agreed to them, you've gone through the details and make sure that they feel that it can be accomplished in this way. And now it just comes down to the money, which shouldn't be a problem, because you're going to be bringing them so much value compared to the work, what you're going to be charging for. Again, we kind of get into this ratio, and I have an equation as well that I'm going to show you where, it's not exact, but it gives you an idea of what the value is based on. And then timelines are usually ranges, but the goal is to finish as soon as possible. And the reason why we're doing this value-based thing, and this is important, instead of hourly, right? You may be sitting back and say, well, what about the hours? Well, at the end of the day, if you want to make more money, you either have to charge more per hour or do more hours, which means you're just extending the product. Why would I want to take 3 months to work on a project so that I can make more money when I can get it done maybe in 1 month if they pay a higher fee and I can bring on more resources and we can, do things at a higher level? That makes a lot more sense. If this person wants to increase their online sales, they want to increase them today. They don't want to increase them 6 months from now or 3 months from now or however long that's going to take. And that's going to be a benefit to you. And that's going to be one of the reasons why they would actually do this type of project with you. And then your high end, of course, is the worst case scenario. That's if they don't get stuff back to you, things go wrong, unexpected things happen that you didn't expect to happen. And that, it happens often. So that's why you give them a little bit of a range. So a little bit into talking about the fees and getting paid. And just to go back, I'm sure you guys were reading this stuff and looking at it, but this is a pretty simple list of items. I'm not kind of doing anything now from the outside looking in groundbreaking, but from my perspective, from what I'm going to bring to this particular project, this isn't out of the realm, and that's a pretty good number. So this is an actual proposal review of services that I've given. So it's pretty good. So talking about the fees and getting paid, this is the hardest part. And this is where you need confidence. That's the key. You can't go in there and say, oh, this is going to be $10,000 in your softest mouse voice. You have to say it, confidently. This is, going to be, and all that. You're going to get all those things for, just $10,000. And we hope to meet all your goals of increasing your sales by hundreds of thousands. It makes a lot of sense. The value-based fees, and just a little definition so you understand what it is. The compensation you receive as your contribution to the value derived by the client as a result of meeting the agreed upon business results. So the value you get based on the things you've agreed upon, the goals, and it will provide a dramatic return on investment for the client and equitable compensation for the consultant or freelancer. That's the key right there. Equitable compensation for the work that you're doing beyond hours. Okay. It's your all your experience and the things that and the decisions you're going to make and help them make based on your experience. That's worth something as well, and that goes beyond hours. So you might say, oh, well, what do I say? The first thing someone ever asked me is, well, how much? So first of all, I just want to point out that this proposal is for projects that are of high value. So at least $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 projects. If someone has something they need that's just $100, clearly you're not going to go through all this and try to prove value for $100, but maybe you might try to flip someone from $100 to $1,000. And this is a way that you can do that. But basically, You can say something along the lines, and you can kind of say this however you'd like. My fee is based on my contribution to the value we have agreed or should result from this project, representing a dramatic return on investment for you and equitable compensation for me. So comes down to, it's going to be based on the value that I can bring to your project. And what are the details? Multiple things. There's a lot of variables that, and that's what I usually say. It's just everybody's project is unique. So I need to look, see, if I look at a project and I see that it's not worth anything, they're just starting, they have no expectation for sales, or maybe they've never made any sales, I'm probably not going to be able to go in there and make them $100,000 off their e-commerce site just out of nowhere. So that might be a project that I don't even take. I might just say, hey, before I get to the proposal, of course, this isn't something that I can do for you. This isn't a project that I can take on. So that's something I kind of didn't mention before, but don't be afraid to say no before ever writing a proposal based on the discovery that you do and seeing that this project is going nowhere. Even if I did amazing work for this person, it's not going to change their bottom line. So clearly this isn't a champion client, a champion project, or anywhere near that. So I should probably try to refer them to someone else, or just let them know that I cannot do it at this time. I'm unavailable, or some other thing. So this is that equation I kind of talked to you about. So the more you impact the buyer personally, now this is key too, personally. So you can make someone look really good by hiring you, and look like the savior, like they know, who exactly to get and how to choose talent. That's important to some people too. And the organization professionally, the higher the fees you can justify in terms of return on investment. So this is sort of just an equation that I picked up from a mentor. Tangible benefits times the annualization plus the intangible benefits times the emotional impact plus the peripheral benefits divided by my fee is equal to the value. So I know that's just like way too much, not anything that you need to memorize, but essentially we're looking at a bunch of different factors surrounding this project, besides just the hours that you're going to put in, besides just the manual labor that you're going to put in, that are going to make this project more valuable. And it's your job to make sure that you can put together a proposal and have conversations with this client before you ever put a proposal together that has convinced them that you're going to bring this value. And you can obviously see some of the examples of what this, what all these things basically mean. And you can look at that yourselves. So again, talking about fees is easiest once the client has an understanding of the goals and the value impact that your work will bring in reaching those goals. You cannot talk about fees before you've got to that point with them. They're just not gonna, they're gonna be blown away. They're like, no way that this costs that much. We can't afford it. That's something they like to say. They can afford it. They just don't want to pay you to do it. They don't feel like they're getting anything from it. So that's the bigger difference there. Never discuss fees over the phone prior to the proposal. Post proposal, once you presented it, and maybe you really want them to agree right there on the spot, but if they have to go talk with their partners, which shouldn't happen, because this should be someone with buying power who can make a decision instantly based on the conversations that you're having. But you can talk more about money afterwards if it comes to that. It shouldn't though. Don't negotiate your fees. I tell this to everyone, and this is a deeper subject, but in reality, we're highly sought after, skilled people, whether you're doing marketing, design, development. Don't negotiate your fees. You know what it costs to get something done. Be confident in that. Only remove goals and services. If they want something to be cheaper, you got to remove some of the value from it, because that's what they're paying for. They're not just going to get it cheaper because they need a break. Entrepreneurs, they want to make the most money on their investment. They want to pay the least amount and make the most amount, which they should. But at the end of the day, building their empire comes at a cost. They always want that lower price, but not at the expense of value and impact. The second you start pulling stuff off the list, I've used this many times, start pulling stuff off the list, instantly you get it. You get them to say, all right, you know what? Never mind. Let's just go ahead and go with that. About getting paid. So this is probably going to be controversial, and you'll wonder, oh, does Roy really get this done? But I do. Always get paid up front when possible. If you built a trusting relationship and the client is confident you can complete the work at a high level, this will not be an issue. So if they don't want to pay you the money up front, then it's because they don't trust you. They don't think that you're going to be able to get it done. and they want to wait and see what happens, which is not a good position for you, because now they can say anything to say, oh, well, the payment's delayed, or can you just do one more thing? And now all of a sudden it's just, everything you thought, you have bills coming up and things you thought you're going to be able to take care of, or employees you're going to be able to pay, you can't pay them, and it doesn't work out well for you. Another option is 50% on acceptance of proposal and the remainder in 30 days. So this is actually pretty popular with a lot of clients that I've been getting recently. Is they'll put down 50% of it and the remainder in 30 days, even if the timeline exceeds, even if it's a 60-day project, which it typically won't be, but maybe it is. It's a longer term project, but you break it up into little sections anyways. I'd want the money in 30 days, just because if you have the money to do the project, there's no reason, if you trust me and that I'm going to bring you this value and we're going to work together as partners, there's no reason why I can't be paid like this. If you don't have the money, that's a whole nother story. And you should have identified that well before you even got to this point. You should have figured out in some way, can this person afford it? Are they prepared to pay for it? Usually clients that do have the money will pretty much say it up front. They will say they have a budget. They know this is going to cost something. They'll use verbiage like that will indicate to you that they're prepared to invest money into their project. You can also offer a 10% discount if paid in full upon the acceptance of the proposal. So a lot of people like this because they get a discount and you get all your money up front, so you can do whatever you need to do with it. Last resort. So this is total last resort. This is the only option you'd give them otherwise. 50% upon acceptance, 25% in 30 days, with remainder on day 45 or 60. Just depends on the length of the project. If it's a 30-day project, you can only break it up into so much. 60 days, I mean, how many checks do they want to write? So you kind of have to put it in perspective. And also notice how I put acceptance of proposal. So they accept the proposal, they sign everything and send you the money, and then there's a start date at some time in the near future. So that doesn't mean on the day that you start that they give you money. No, on acceptance of the proposal, because now we know we're moving forward and I'm getting prepared to work on your project. So I know I went through that kind of fast. Typically I've been known to go on for long periods of time and exceed my time, and maybe I have today. But essentially, if you need any help, have any questions, just reach out to me. Jossfolk@gmail.com is the easiest way to get a hold of me. If you want me to take a look at a proposal or give you some ideas for a proposal you have coming up, feel free. I'm more than happy to help.
Yay! So, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Oh my gosh. I love having hair this big, but my headphones are really fantastic. All right, cool. That was really, really awesome.
Hopefully I didn't go too long.
No, you did great. We are still live right now. And cool. We have, I don't know if we have any questions in the chat right now, but I have a question. So we're looking at, it looks like you're definitely a remote freelancer. You work from home, all that cool stuff. Do you think that some of these things also apply to consultants that are, part of a company that aren't necessarily remote?
Can you give me an example of someone that, what do you mean by that? Like you're like a contract worker?
Essentially, yeah. So let's say you work for a company that does, consulting for businesses, and you have to do small projects for them, right? Like they want a new website or they need new logos designed for them. But you're part of a holistic company.
Yeah, at that point, yes, definitely, because you're a part of a much bigger operation where, the value incentive for them is much higher. And then, there's actually, and I didn't get into this, but you need to decide with them, do you even need to be there on site? Is that something that is truly bringing a lot of value, or, do they just want it to get done? So that's something, a whole different part of it, but definitely can work in that instance. And the goal would be is that you've convinced them that you actually don't need to be there, which gives you more discretionary time, allows you to do more things with your time besides just, be on the clock for them. That's not valuable. What you want to be able to bring to them is a return on their investment, and just purely them paying for you to be there is not really a return. It's just a body and a seat. So You have to kind of break, in a way that will be that they'll understand it, that no, you may not have to be there, or maybe you do on certain days, or be there for certain types of engagements, or just be on call, right? Like if you give me a shout, I can be at the office, within a day or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've got a question from Nardo, who says, how do you allocate time? Like if you choose a new customer today and another one wants work from you in a similar timeline, do you overextend yourself or do you bring in help?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So number one, the reason why you're charging more is because you want to get more for your time. So you spend less time and you have more time to take on a new client. And I've talked about this in previous, I'm independent, right? Like I don't have a big team. There's nobody, if I need a contractor, I have to actually go find one. I can only do about 2-3 projects a month. So I have to be really picky on my client and what I'm charging them, because I want to live a certain way. Like I want to be able to pay my bills and live a certain lifestyle. So really you should only be taking on a certain amount. And then obviously if you're charging more, the other benefit of that is you can bring on help. So now all of a sudden, if you're charging 3 times or 5 times more than what what your hourly expectation would have been, you have the opportunity to bring on some help so that your time is free to maybe go get some work. Maybe that's the beginnings of an agency for you. So everybody goes in a different direction. For me, I don't want to build an agency. I don't want 10 people working for me. So I try to create a situation where I can have 2-3 clients a month, or people who are with me for extended periods of time, and they're just paying a fee that makes a lot of sense to me, but also makes a lot of sense to them depending on their goals.
Awesome. I love it. That makes more sense.
Sorry, my little puppy is going crazy.
No, you're totally fine. He's excited about it too. Alrighty, so it doesn't look like we have any more questions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't any questions, that will come up later.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It's live, so this is what happens live, right? So, yeah. Look how cute he is. Alrighty, so there definitely will be questions later, I'm sure.
Yeah,
so how can people
just feel free to email me. That's the best way to access me, and to get immediate help. Or on Slack, if you're on the Slack, shoot me a DM.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is your Slack, if you don't mind sharing that out?
It's just my name.
Entire internet. Okay, perfect.
It's just my name. Everything's at my name. So all my social media, anything, all that stuff that you want to find is just my name. Pretty unique. So.
And it's Roy Jossfolk, right?
Correct.
Perfect. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Roy, for being a part of this. Really appreciate having you on.
No problem. Thank you.
Bye.